gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hold it, you're not that pretty. Come on, man. I still got the wall.
I bear witness, there's only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his final messenger. That's what I said, Larry, on the Bungle fight. Thanking you.
They call me the problem, but you could call me the can man, because anybody can get it.
How y'all doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition on Split Decision. With me today is the one and only Bill Haney. Pleasure having you back on the show, Bill.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to be on here with you, good brother. You know, Eid Mubarak, brother.
Eid Mubarak to everybody that's tuning in. Bill Haney, that's a lot to talk about. Obviously, it was at the Shakur Stevenson fight. So I want to start off by asking you, what was your reaction to Shakur Stevenson performance against Oscar Valdez?
Oh man, he put on a clinic, didn't he? I mean, it was shout out to Shakur and his team, with Jay Prince, and they did an excellent job. His grandfather, Wally Moses, who's been there since the beginning, embraced us when we came up there in the Newark. You know, they did an excellent job, man. They put on a clinic. They did what they said they were going to do, and I was happy to be able to see such an accomplishment for a young guy like Shakur.
Well, you yourself, you obviously have Devin Haney. He has a huge fight coming up for Undisputed. What's your thoughts on Kambosos claiming that he's already undisputed and that he doesn't view Devin Haney as a world champion, but he views Lomachenko as a champion?
Like Devin says, it's just a lot of fighter talk. You know, everything that he's saying, we expect him to say. We want to give him, we want to prepare for the fighter that he says that he is, and not the fighter that the public says that he is, not the fighter that we might think that he is. I mean, so we take everything serious. We take every threat serious. As far as him saying that what Devin isn't, we'll prove who Devin is come June 4th. And that's pretty much the way that I look at it. There's necessarily no reason to do any of that, down to put anyone down at this point in time. The fight is made. We're 30 days away, so let's get ready to get it on.
Well, it's interesting you say that because when Devin Haney met Kambosos face to face, Kambosos did say that he respects Devin Haney as a world champion. But obviously, when Devin Haney is not around, he's claiming that he doesn't respect Devin Haney as a champion. Matter of fact, he doesn't view him as a world champion. So do you just see that as games trying to get into Devin Haney's head, so on and so forth? Is that how you look at it?
Well, I mean, that's part of boxing. If you can get in someone's head, those are tactics that we learned early on that the fighters will do. That's just something that we don't try to do. We don't go that route. Because, skills pay the bills. And I'd rather be more skillful. I'd rather have the skillful fighter than the fighter that was the most talkative. So whatever that he's planning, we will be prepared for anything that he brings on the night of the fight.
I asked Devin Haney on the show about Kambosos claiming that he's going to be running. Devin Haney said Kambosos ran against Teofimo Lopez. So as a trainer, when you hear Kambosos say that, what's your take on that as a trainer?
Well, skills, it's styles make fights, you know what I mean? And everyone at this level brings a certain skill set. We can't prepare for George Kambosos the way that he fought against Teofimo Lopez. We can't prepare for the way that he fought against Lee Selby or Mickey Bay. because fight night, it might be a different George Kambosos. So what we do is we sharpen the tools that we have in the toolbox, and then we make the adjustments needed at the right time. But to actually prepare for that guy, you know what I mean, would be to underestimate him. I know that he has a lot of confidence going into this fight after beating a fighter like Teofimo Lopez in Madison Square Garden. He'll be at home, so he'll be a very confident fighter. And we just, like I said, we just plan to make every adjustment needed to come out with to come out victorious. But when you talk about what Devin is going to be doing and what Devin is not going to be doing, he might be underestimating Devin. It's 30 days away, so it's no need to divulge anything that we're going to actually do. Let's make it a surprise on June 4th.
Well, George Kambosos did say he's gonna strip Devin Haney of his career come June 4th. What's your response to that?
Well, like I said again, that's he's doing fighter talk. He had put on a hell of a performance against Teofimo Lopez and everyone else that he has. So and everyone else is fighting. Mickey Bay has a fight coming up against Tevin Farmer. I think there's talks about Teofimo Lopez fighting. If I was to go on what the media is saying, that they're talking about him fighting Josh Taylor. So actually stripping any one of their careers, he hasn't yet to do anything like that. And I definitely know that he won't be stripping Devin of his career. So once again, I think that he's just talking, and there's no more time to talk. The fight is built up. According to him, he's sold a whole lot of seats. The Australian people are getting ready and they're clamoring for the event. So I don't think that it's no need for those kind of insults. But if that's the road that he's taking, let him do it. We plan on taking the high road and just coming to fight.
Do you feel like Devin Haney has to completely dominate Kambosos to get the decision in Australia?
Well,
not necessarily win he can't win a close fight over there.
Absolutely. You go into it wanting to dominate and to handicap your opponent of what they do best and make them uncomfortable and doing the things that they're not necessarily comfortable with. So Devin has never been in a fight that's been close. I think Kambosos' last 3 fights were split decisions. So I think that he's more used to things being in the hands of the judges in the sense of one judge picking him and then one judge picking his opponent. Obviously, because he's been in 3 split decisions. We've yet to be in a split decision, so we're not going into it of the mindset of looking for what the judges might do or not do. We're looking into going and putting a hell of a performance on, and showing the people that Devin is the best in the lightweight division.
You brought up Teofimo Lopez. What was your reaction when you heard Teofimo Lopez say DAZN robbed him to host the fight with Devin Haney next for Undisputed against George Kambosos?
When I heard that, it didn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? I hope that Teofimo can get his mind right, and get ready to get back in the ring and not look back in the past, but look forward to recovering and having a promising future.
You think he's mentally ready for a Josh Taylor fight if the rumors are true, according to Teofimo himself? It's not even a rumor. That's what Teo said. So you think he's mentally ready for that type of fight?
Well, I hope he is. Me being a fight fan, you know what I mean? I don't like to see fighters go into fights that they're not mentally or physically ready. You know what I mean? So I hope that Teo and his dad, will get together and get back to where they once were, as a confident team, and not let the past loss affect their movement in the future. So I just wish them well and hope that they can get it together.
On another note, Devin Haney have been in the conversation with Gervonta Davis, and Gervonta Davis recently said that Floyd Mayweather saved Devin Haney in sparring. Every time Devin Haney got hurt, Floyd will push Tank off of Devin Haney. What's your thoughts on his comments and your response to that?
Well, I mean, I'm the kind of guy that I still got my 3rd grade lunch money. You know what I mean? I'm big on saving, and I also got the money that I won on that particular fight. I still got it. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's how that goes. You know, I think if it was any kind of pushing or any kind of dirty play, shout out to Coach Levi and Adrian Boner's dad, who paid the money. You know what I mean? They were gentlemen and they knew what's happening. But, you know, like Devin said, if there's any kind of discrepancies about the sparring or anything, because it's only sparring, then, you know, let's talk about making a fight happen after Devin finishes his business with George Kambosos and he finishes his business with Rolly Romero. But you know, with the fight that we have coming up, it's truly the Super Bowl of the lightweight division. You know, and no matter if you wanted to watch the Patriots or you wanted to watch the Raiders, in the Super Bowl this past year, you had the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Los Angeles Rams. So no matter how you like it, no matter how you spell it out, it's George Kambosos versus Devin Haney for the undisputed title. And that means all the belts, every belt in the division. And, you know, I mean, like I say, you know, if you're a true fight fan and, you know, as well as I'm a true football fan, then I accept the position that the teams are in. Our team is in the fight to accomplish the biggest thing in the sport. So I don't look past George Kambosos and his team by any stretch of the imagination. So I can't look past them to look at somebody, a devastating puncher like Gervonta Davis, and a great team and the Mayweather team and Al Heyman and that whole brand. You know, that'll take something else to do. I can't necessarily look at both of them at the same time. We can talk and we can make ourselves available should we and when we get finished with George Kambosos.
Devin Haney versus Kambosos, the way you put it, is the Super Bowl of the lightweight division. Devin Haney is in the final playoffs with Kambosos to fight for the championship, for undisputed, for all marvels. So that being the case, Gervonta Davis is one of the biggest names in all of boxing, along with Canelo, so on and so forth.
Listen,
Devin Haney is in the mix.
So are the Patriots, so are the Raiders, but they're not. They weren't at the dance. You see what I mean?
That's my point.
So is the Los Angeles Lakers, who are not in the playoffs. You see what I'm saying? And what do guys that are not in the Super Bowl? They do interviews and talk shit. So let's, you know, with Gervonta Davis, he might need to just concentrate on Rolly Romero and one of the wild ass hooks that Rolly might throw. You know.
Well, he is going to be watching because he did say that he wants the winner of the Super Bowl bout, that he wants the winner of Kambosos versus Devin Haney. Now
so he wants to go to the Super Bowl, huh? He said he wants to go to the Super Bowl.
That's what he said. So knowing that Gervonta wants the winner and that his contract is up with Floyd Mayweather, do you think that this fight now is more realistic once Devin Haney becomes undisputed? Now that Tank said that he wants the winner of that fight.
Hey, listen. He's a great young fighter. You know what I'm saying? We take nothing away from him. And like I said, once we handle our business with George Kambosos, the sky's the limit. And those are the kind of fights against guys like Gervonta Davis, who consistently sells out arenas and does the things that he does for boxing, right? You know what I mean? Is something that you know, we would look forward to, but not look past George Kambosos.
Another name that's being attached to Devin Haney is Ryan Garcia. First of all, I want to get your take on Ryan Garcia's last performance against Tego, I believe his name is. What was your thoughts on his performance? If you seen the fight.
Well, I did see the fight. I watch all the fights, so I mean I watch all the fights that I can. I can't say I watch all of them, but I did see that fight, and Ryan did what he was supposed to do with an opponent like Tego, who you know what I mean, who had a good record, but not necessarily a good record against you know, elite competition, right? Former world champions and so on and so forth. You know, so he did what he was supposed to do. I think that now he's back from, you know, a lot of the issues that he was going through, and you know, put his name in the hat. You know, Devin, like Devin has said before, is that, you know, you put him in front of him, he'll knock him down one at a time.
Well, Ryan Garcia's father, Henry, said that Ryan Garcia knocked down Devin Haney in the amateurs. What's your response to that?
Well, I said that he's ready to fight. I didn't say that he wasn't lying, Ryan Garcia. And, once you have a kid that's lying, the dad, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You know what I mean? So, shout out to, his dad and the best that he's doing in terms of trying to attach his name to Devin and attach with some success. One thing that you can do is you can type in Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, and you'll see Devin, putting it on Ryan. You won't see the opposite. You know what I mean? That's never happened before, where he's knocked Devin down. Devin hasn't been knocked down before, ever. You know what I mean? So that's just my take on it. I don't know what reason he was doing other than doing some unnecessary cloud chasing when they've done a tremendous job with Ryan in terms of he's on commercials. He's doing a lot of things. He's a YouTube sensation, so there's no reason for the lies about knocking Devin down. But you know what I mean? To each his own.
Well, obviously, Ryan Garcia have been shying away from fighting Devin Haney since he is Devin Haney mandatory. I don't know if he is still. Is Ryan still Devin Haney mandatory? Is he still Devin Haney mandatory?
You know what? I think Ryan Garcia has been a mandatory not once but twice and didn't want to fight Dev. You know what I'm saying? And they say everything else other than fight. I mean, he mentioned some things like what does he sell? What does he do? And who has he fought? And we killed every narrative in the sense of that he came back and got Emmanuel Tago, who hadn't fought anyone, right? Hadn't necessarily been on a main event card, hadn't even been on television. No one knew him. So that dispelled all the things of him saying of why he didn't fight Devin, right? Initially he said that, he was going to fight Tank. He was going to fight Manny Pacquiao. You know what I mean? Two big names in the sport. Neither one of those materialized, and he kind of faded away. I think he was actually stripped from being the interim champion because he wouldn't fight Devin.
And JoJo got that title, and then he was supposed to fight JoJo.
Yes.
But then Devin Haney fought him. So now, obviously, clearly, Ryan have been shying away from fighting Devin Haney, and he even gave Devin Haney his credit by saying that at some point he did tell the truth and say that Devin Haney is the toughest out of the Fabulous Four, so he's saving him for last. Now, since Devin Haney is fighting for Undisputed, do you see Ryan Garcia now welcoming the fight that since Devin Haney killed all the narratives he did come up with from you ain't fought nobody, this, that, and the third?
We sure hope so, brother. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of the WBC title that Devin has held and being his this will be his fifth title defense, wasn't enough, right? So, it wasn't enough to get the bigger names in the ring, right? The public wasn't able to force them to come in and fight for a world title at 135. So getting all the belts, hopefully that is the seduction to make the big fights happen. And if not, then we go up to 140, and go up there and see what those guys are talking about.
What is the deepest division in boxing in your opinion? Is it lightweight or welterweight or welterweight?
You know what? It's I think the crop of kids in the lightweight division are younger. Then you got the older guys in the 147-pound division. So both divisions are deep with talent. I think that the 135 isn't established but very talented, right? But then you have the 147-pound division, the welterweight, an established division, but you have a lot of older fighters. But with the fight between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence being a mega fight, right? You have to give credence to the welterweight division.
Yeah, he was at the Errol Spence fight. What was your reaction to his performance against Ugas, and how do you see the Terrence fight playing out after you've seen how well he did against Ugas, since he literally, broke his face, his nose, his eye socket, so on and so forth?
Well, I mean, he broke everything on Ugas, didn't he? He totally put a dominant performance on Ugasa and dispelled every rumor that he's not the old Errol Spence. In fact, he might be even a better Errol Spence from what I saw. But take nothing away from the performance that Terrence Crawford put on Sean Porter. You know what I mean? Because these victories are short-lived publicly, right? So we want to start thinking about Ugas and what Errol did to Ugas. But in my mind, I still remember what Terrence did to Sean Porter. So it makes for an excellent fight. It's a fight that I wouldn't bet on. You know what I mean? Hello?
Yeah, we lost you for a second. Hold on. Yeah, you back, Bill. Well, hold on. Let me try to get Bill back. So, for the people tuning in, go ahead, subscribe below, click on the notification bell to get notified every time I post or go live. Make sure you guys click that like button. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Jose Diaz.
Can I see some lotion?
So, Bill, you was talking about, so you're not really leaning toward Errol nor Crawford. You think it's a 50-50 fight all around the board. You can't pick one.
It's definitely a 50-50 fight. It's a fight that's I wouldn't pick. You know what I mean? I wouldn't pick it at all. It's a fight that's for the fans. This is one that's, you know what I mean, that's for us. And those guys, shout out to those guys, being courageous enough to get in against each other, because it's a truly it will be truly a close fight.
What does that fight remind you of? If you go back in history, like, does it remind you of Sugar Ray versus Hearns?
I would say,
what fight in particular does that remind you of?
I would say more like a Hagler and Hagler and Hearns type fight.
Okay. And who's
Hagler
and who's
Ray?
Hearns?
You can put any one of those in there. Hagler
Right.
and Ray, Hagler and Hearns. But I would think, yeah, I would. You know what I mean? They have different skill sets than those guys, so it's hard to comparison. But they're as talented, right? And it's competitive as those guys. So definitely it's going to be one of those kind of fight for the ages, and we might see more than one. We might see a trilogy.
Yeah. Well, I won't mind.
Two
I'll
or
be
more.
there ringside.
Yeah.
Well, I got some predictions for you, Bill. It's Canelo fight week. Who do you see winning this weekend, Bivol or Canelo Alvarez?
Well, I think I see Canelo winning. I don't know too much about Bivol. I watched him early on. I don't know. I haven't seen a fight of his as of lately, but I think that Canelo will be too much for him. From what I know, the Bivol that I know.
So, Bivol is a good fighter, for the people that don't know. So do you just see Canelo beating him because you believe he's simply the best pound for pound, or what?
I try to stay away from the best pound for pound, with Canelo, because of, various, for the various reasons that, everyone tends to say different things. Why he didn't fight this person, didn't fight that person. You know what I mean? But I'll just say that he is a good fighter, right? I look forward to seeing the fight. But when you talk about the pound for pound, I just kind of try to stay away from it.
So you don't rate him as number one?
Well, like I said, I don't rate him one, Crawford, Errol Spence, any of those guys. I tend to just kind of stay away from the talk about who's number one, because it's a lot of other factors and circumstances that I'm not 100% privy of, you know, and I just tend to stay away from it. That question.
Yeah. So who do you believe is number one in the world? Like as far as from all the fighters in the sport of boxing, who do you believe is the best?
Devin Haney.
Who's the most accomplished?
I don't know. I don't know. It would then have to. I'd have to give it some thought. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, speaking of Devin Haney, I mean, he is on record saying that the franchise is a witness protection title. The franchise is for ducks. So do you think that's why you don't rate Canelo as the best because of him creating the franchise belt?
Well, no, it's a lot of things that you have to take a look at when determining, you know, who's the number one fighter, you know, how they became the number one fighter, what they did when they became the number one fighter, so on and so forth. So for those reasons, I just stay away from it.
Right. Well, Devin Haney is also on record saying that, you know, Eddie Ronaldo camp, his whole camp is on that shit. So, you know, knowing that information at hand, you don't believe, you know, you can't be the best in the world and a cheater at the same time. I mean, at least if you cheated in the past before. How do you look at that? How do you view that?
Oh, absolutely. I don't believe in cheating, and I don't believe in anyone being rated high should they get caught cheating, you know?
Right. Now, another fight on the come up is Charlo versus Castano. It was a draw last time. So who do you see winning this fight and how?
Well, I hope that Charlo wins it. You know what I mean? I know that it was a very, very close fight. It was a draw, right?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. Charlo is gonna have to bring his A game, and you know, I hope that he comes out victorious.
So you got Charlo by decision or knockout. How do you see that fight playing out?
Yes, yeah. Decision knockout. I got him winning. You know what I mean? I know he's a knockout artist, but then you also heard him. I don't know if it was him or his brother went on to say that, you know, it's about winning, and if he doesn't knock somebody out, then he's viewed, you know, as, you know, he's not viewed in the same light as being successful. So I wouldn't want to put the pressure on him that he would have to get the knockout. I just want him to win.
Tank versus Rolly. How you see that fight playing out?
Tank by murder.
From 1 to 10, what is chances Rolly of winning?
Whichever one is lowest. Is 1 the lowest or 10 the lowest?
0 is the lowest. I mean, but yeah.
Yeah, well, no, I think in this sport he has a puncher's chance. He has a puncher's chance, so let's give him a 1.
Well, okay. You know, another one coming up is David Benavidez versus Lemieux. How you see that fight playing out?
David, you know, I'm a big fan of David, and you know, his dad is a friend of mine. I consider him a friend. You know, so I'm rooting for David Benavidez. You know, in that fight with Lemieux. I know Lemieux he was a once really good fighter, right? I don't know if he still has enough in the tank to handle a young, hungry fighter like Benavidez.
Want to get back, you know, I want to go back to Kambosos. He has been talking a lot. I know you're saying it's just talks, but he did say that Devin Haney, you know, repeating what a lot of haters say, which is Devin Haney doesn't have a lot of power. He pillow fisted, so on and so forth. Even though we have seen in the past, no one is walking through Devin. You know, matter of fact, he's applying pressure on them against Linares and Jojo. So do you expect Kambosos to be aggressive come June 4th? Do you see him being aggressive, trying to prove a point, underestimating Devin Haney, his skill set, and more so his power?
Well, I just look forward and hope that, Kambosos, we get the best Kambosos and whatever that he wants to do. If he wants to come forward, if he wants to box, we truly want to get the best of him, because I know for certain that the better the fighter is, the more that Devin rises to the occasion, and the people deserve to see a good fight. And I hope that he comes well prepared and is on his A game, doing the best thing that he possibly can do. As far as his talking points of Devin not having any power, I mean, he's using those that a lot of old media was actually doing for their favorite fighters, and protecting their fighters from getting in the ring with Devin, or creating false narratives that to stop Devin from actually making these fights happen. You have a lot of guys, a lot of media members. You have also trainers and stuff that go openly and say that Devin doesn't have the power. And it's about winning, and it's about having a certain skill set. You have throughout the time, you've had fighters that didn't have what everyone said was power. And I can name one that comes to mind is Sweet Pea Whitaker, who's an all-time great and defensive wizard. So styles make fights. If you have a guy with all the power in the world and he's a knockout, bring him on. You know what I'm saying? Put him in the ring with us and see if he does it to us. That's the way that I look at it. But I like confident fighters. I like fighter to be confident in his skills. And if that's what he's going to do, if he's going to come forward and he's a knockout person, well, he only has 10 knockouts in his whole career. And I think by the time he enters the ring, he'll be 29 years old. He hasn't had a knockout in over 3 years, right? Against anyone that we care to mention. So, I mean, or anybody that we know to mention, so that's what his game plan is. Then by all means, then, bring it on, It's just not something that he has a proven track record in. But should he come in on June 4th with that kind of attitude, and that we'll be prepared for it.
You see Devin Haney stopping Kambosos if he runs in not respecting Devin Haney power?
Oh, he'll respect his power. He's gonna respect it, and he's gonna learn that. He's gonna learn that quick. He's gonna learn it quicker than ever. So, like I said, we're prepared. I mean, Devin is not gonna just lay down for him. He's gonna come in and we're gonna do what we do. I don't see. You have a Jorge Linares. You got Jojo Diaz, Gamboa. You got all these guys, and everyone says that that's what they're gonna do. But when you take a look at it, when you get in the ring with Dev, it's a total different thing. So, he says that he's going to come forward. He says he's going to knock him out. He says that he's going to do all those things. Only thing I say is those are things that I think that right now you're just talking, because those are things that you haven't did before. The fighter that, it was Teofimo Lopez that was coming forward, and it was him that was on the back foot. It was him backing up. You know what I mean? Pretty much. And back up, get set, and Teofimo would run into everything. So I think what he's probably asking is that we fight like Teofimo Lopez, and that's impossible, because that's Tio. Tio is Tio, and Devin is Devin. So he'll, just tell him to get ready.
Speaking of trainers, that's critical. Joel Diaz have been very critical of Devin Haney as of late.
Diaz is the
what's
worst.
Your thoughts on that?
Joel Diaz is the worst ever, right? He's the worst ever. I mean, I've always had a respect for him, when I've seen him, because of course he's been in the game for some time. And when I'd see him, I would always be cordial. But every time they put the mic in his face and they ask him about Dev, he seems to want to shit on him. He says that he goes to sleep during the fight and he has no power. So I took a look at Joel Diaz. I said, well, what kind of fighter was he, right? And if you take a look at him, what was his record like? 18-3 or something like that, with 3 knockouts or something like that. Something like that. He only had like 3 knockouts. So with him, what possibly? I mean, if you go to sleep, if he's going to sleep with Devin, then he must have been asleep when he was fighting, because
Oh man,
If he go to sleep watching Dev, he must have been actually asleep during his own fights because, you know what I mean? The man had 3 knockouts his whole entire career. So, you know, he got to understand, you know, that what you say, you know, you must be held accountable, you know? And we must also give all these fighters respect, you know what I'm saying? In terms of, you know, him saying he's going to sleep, then you just don't, you're not giving credit to what the sport is and what the sport represents. Truly, it's hitting and not getting hit. And inside that square circle, right? It gets hot up under there, under the lights. You know what I mean? And it ain't really no place to run. So everyone that says that, you know, a fighter is running, you know what I mean? I have to disagree.
Well, we know one thing for sure, 2 things for certain. Devin Haney wasn't running against Linares nor Jojo because he did back them up majority of the fight. But you know, obviously trainers should have appreciation for the sweet science. So when you hear Joet Diaz say stuff like that and being very critical of Devin Haney without respecting the sweet science, even though he's training Bivol, I hope he's not having Bivol run into Canelo because he is going to go to sleep if he does that. And he also trained Timothy Bradley at some point. So is there history between Joet Diaz and you guys where it didn't end on good terms for him to be so critical in a negative way?
No, not at all, not at all. And like I said, I was always very cordial to him. I'm just speaking on the fact that, you know, styles make fights, and fighters have to learn how to cut the ring off, right? If it's a fighter that's on their back foot, then you cut the ring off and you go to work on them. You know what I'm saying? But you can't consistently let a fighter through the door, you know, right to the left, and you haven't learned how to cut the ring off. If that's the style that you have, you know.
One last thing, I want to get your take on this because you're good friends with Mike Tyson, and he had an incident not too long ago where someone was, you know, being annoying to him, but more so off camera. Apparently, he had said some wild things to Mike that was very disrespectful from what I heard. Then Mike Tyson resorted to punching him. So what's your take on that whole incident, and how can you avoid situations like that as a fighter when your hands are registered so you can stay out of trouble?
Well, it's unfortunate that those are one of the rare times that Mike didn't have a buffer with him, right? He was flying back from San Francisco at a convention or something like that. We want to say, I'll say it for all intent and purposes, say it was a convention. But so he's flying back, and you know, he has no one to tell the guy, you know, shut the fuck up, you know, stop a lot. But he, you know, he just, you know, when you get to the level that Mike Tyson is, everyone wants to goad him and bait him and you know, and try to bring that Mike Tyson out, and that's what that guy got, and he actually got what he deserved from, because while you're on the flight, like you've been on multiple flights, I just came in from New York. Who wants someone just, you know, behind their ear, just standing up, just berating them and you know, bothering them, you know? And at the end of the day, Mike is a man, just like anyone else, you know. So you know, he's, you know, he'll do what a man is going to do. They're going to stand up for themselves, you know. So to just sit there for the duration of the flight and just let the guy insult him, right? I think the guy was looking for a payday, you know.
And that was first class too. Apparently, that was first class too.
Yeah,
also,
the guy was riding first class, but he had a coach attitude. You know what I mean? I don't even, you know, well, it's the plane. No matter what seat you're on, you know, you still should be first class in your attitude and your demeanor. You know what I mean? The seat shouldn't be, you know what I mean, a jungle and coach and, you know what I mean, harmony and first class. So, you know, I mean, I just think that the guy was looking for a payday, you know, and it's very, very unfortunate because Mike has been doing some good things, and to this kind of light be cast upon him, you know what I mean, it's just very unfortunate. I get a chance to see a whole different Mike because his daughter plays tennis with my younger son, with Sean. You know, so they play at the same academy and stuff like that. So you know, it's just very unfortunate because I know that Mike is not the guy that what is trying to be portrayed of him.
I want to get your take on another incident that just took place like a couple hours ago. Apparently, it got posted on TMZ. David Chappelle was tackled on stage with a man with a gun, according to the headline I read. What's your thoughts on that?
Wow. You know what? It's ever since this whole Will Smith thing, right? Now people feel like that they can just run up on the stage and do things that you know that they shouldn't be doing. You know, and it's very unfortunate because you know when you talk about a singer or you talk about when you talk about a comic who goes up and does a you know stand-up performance, right? To then be worried about someone running up on the stage is unfortunate. You know what I mean? It's just a sad day and time when you go there, you're going there to laugh and have some enjoyment and kind of get away from, you know, the problems of the world and the ills of society, and then you see this guy running up there on the stage on him. So, did the guy mess his arm up or something? I saw something like his arm was bent back. Is that the guy?
I'm not even sure. I mean, I gotta take a look into it. I just seen it, and that I was just surprised that that happened to David Chappelle too. You know, it's just so much crazy things going on in the world. You don't even know what's happening.
Yes. Well, like I say, you know, I mean, I wish David Chappelle well. He's a great comic, and you know, it's just unfortunate, brother.
Yeah. Well, June 4th. Well, what do you want to leave the fans with? What statement are you guys looking to put on come June 4th against George Kambosos for undisputed, all marvels, all the belts, the Super Bowl bout in the lightweight division?
Well, it is the Super Bowl of the lightweight division. You know, it was some great teams that's been involved in making this thing happen. We used smart business, and it wasn't personal. Shout out to Lou DiBella, who's the lead promoter on the card, for being a man of his word and honoring what he said that he was going to do. It's truly a Cinderella story for both him, who's he's been away from the sport in terms of being the lead promoter on a fight of this magnitude. Then you have, of course, me and Devin, the Cinderella story of where we come from to where we are now. You have George Kambosos, who's been underrated for so long, who's been waiting for his shot, right, to then go home, him and his dad, Jim, to have an opportunity to launch his promotional company, Ferocious Promotions. So, it's also Top Rank and Bob Arum, who, had enough smarts to push all the personal stuff aside, not make it personal, and put the deal on the table that Devin accepted. So, like I said, it's a true Cinderella story that we're all participating on it and I'm just happy. I think on June 4th it's going to be fireworks. You're going to look to see a new and improved Devin, a Devin that you haven't seen, right? And put on a hell of a performance and a hellacious ass whipping on George Kambosos.
On another note, I do want to get your take on, all these fighters. You brought up George Kambosos starting his own promotional company. I believe you said Ferocious Promotion. I believe Devin Haney was the youngest champion or fighter of all time that started his own promotional company and came into the game and capitalized, talking straight to the network instead of talking to the promoter and getting a purse. He talked to the network and gets the whole pot. And he, it's just in and out of the business. You did a great job with Devin Haney marketing him, so on and so forth. So can you talk about that? The fact that a lot of fighters are following the Devin Haney blueprint when it comes to starting your own promotional company and capitalizing on the money you could make as a professional fighter from an early age.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what we did it for, was to inspire other fighters. We were looking and thinking that it would inspire the fighters that came after Devin. You know, the fathers and sons that wanted and wanted to be in control of their destiny. We know that the big three, like I tend to call them, right? You know, this is not the blueprint that they designed, right? We had to actually design it ourselves, being a dad and you know, a fighter like Devin, right, to stay down and make this thing happen. But, you know, shout out to George and Jim, you know, with Ferocious Promotions, and Javante Davis with GTD Promotions, and, you know what I mean, King Rye Promotions. You know what I mean? I'm starting to hear a whole lot of them, right? Lions Only, Man Down Promotions, you know what I mean? And you know, that's what is supposed to be happening. And I'm happy that Devin is being considered as a pioneer in the sport for, you know, doing these kind of things. Not only becoming the youngest promoter, but also dispelling any kind of rumor that it's a side of the street, that, you know, that fighters aren't able to make the fights happen, that they that are legacy defining fights, when those fights happen, you know, when they're comfortable and when they're ready, instead of hiding behind the promoter and hiding behind networks and saying things that push the sport back to the horse and buggy days. You know, so I'm happy. I'm excited about it. You know, I say Ferocious Promotions. You know what I mean? Happy. You know what I mean? I think that Peter Khan, who isn't talked about a whole lot, a good manager. You know, he has Cambosos, but he also has the guy, the other. Well, he had the girl that just won, the undisputed. What's her name for
Taylor?
Huh?
Taylor?
No, Cruz.
Talking about Taylor?
No. Freyshawn.
Oh yeah,
Freyshawn,
okay.
the middleweight, super middleweight girl.
Right. Yeah.
He has some fighters. He has some fighters, but he has George Cambosos, and we did a lot of back and forth negotiating to make this fight happen as well. You know, I think that he's doing a great job, and a lot of times, a lot of these guys don't get, you know, they don't get the they're not held in high esteem, but they work their ass off. You know what I'm saying? Peter Khan is one guy that does, you know, and I always like to give credit where credit is due, you know, and what we say in Oakland is give them their grams.
On the last note, so when you hear a guy like George Kambosos say, Devin Haney, you know, he's wasting his money on jewelry and dissing him for blowing his money here and there, and he bragging about his investments that he's making, so on and so forth. What's your reaction to that when you know, obviously, firsthand that Devin Haney made some smart investments when it comes to, you know, starting his own promotional company, knowing how to capitalize on the game?
Well, we call that pocket watching. You know what I'm saying? I think that Devin, and I'm very proud of him and what he's accomplished and what he does. I'm proud of him as a father. You know, what he buys and what he does, that's his business. I know that we've had a boxing gym when Devin was 8, 9, 10 years old. You know, so we understand and we know what having a gym is. I think George does a lot of bragging in terms of him having his own gym. It was one thing about us with having the gym. It got harder to bring the fighters in, so we closed our gym down and went looking for the fighters. You know, we went looking for the work. You know what I'm saying, right? Versus just sitting at a gym waiting for them to come. You know, we would go knock on their door. So, you know, I don't give necessarily having your own gym a whole lot of credit. You know what I mean? But, you know, let's worry about June 4th and putting on a show for the people, right? And then we can talk about all the investment stuff and what he's doing and what he should be doing. I think that the people are tuning in for a fight. They're not tuning in for, you know what I mean, a class on investments.
Yes, yes, sir. Now, Aiden Mubarak, Bill, pleasure having you back on the show, like always. Any last note you want to leave to the fans?
June 4th, the Super Bowl of the lightweight division. live, Melbourne, Australia, on ESPN. Kambosos versus Devin Haney. Fireworks. Big, 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 big. No more talk. No more talk at all about the belts. One belt, one champion. And that's undisputed. June 4th.
That's the class act, Bill Haney. Pleasure having you, like always. And I'm gonna catch up with you next time, Bill.
Absolutely, brother. You have a good one. Shout out to everybody in the chat, everybody worldwide. Man, be safe out there, and talk to you soon.
All right, peace, brother.
Peace.
That's Bill Haney. For the people that's tuning in, Devin Haney, trainer, father, and CEO of DHB Promotion. So make sure you guys tune in June. I'm gonna go ahead and open the phone lines so you guys could call in. So make sure you guys call in to place your prediction on the fight this weekend. So in a few moments I'll be back. So make sure you guys call in. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. So go ahead and click on that like button, subscribe, and click on that notification bell as well. Let me go ahead and pick up the first caller. Hello, how you doing, AKHi? Who this is and where you calling from?
Hey, AKHi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, this is Noel. I'm calling from Jersey City, New Jersey, South Jersey now. I just wanted to call in. I'm a long-time viewer, you and Dante's Boxing Nation. I'm very frequent in the comments, and basically, I just wanted to speak to you about, the current state of boxing, because you interact a lot with the comments, you interact with a lot of people over social media, and I mean, honestly, like, it's something I've always wanted to ask either you or Dante. Like, do you see, because as of right now, like, with boxing, it's kind of like it is race based, when it comes to nationality, pride, and race. But now that Canelo has center pointed himself in a position where he doesn't really have to fight another, elite top black fighter like Mayweather, kind of like with the Valdez situation where he got beat by Shakur. Do you see more fighters taking that route where they'll say, all right, I'll get a belt, lose to a slick black fighter once early or later on, and then avoid more of those fighters in the future and just use that one person as my clarification of why I don't go out there to fight anybody else? Because with Canelo, it's always been like, oh, well, I already fought Mayweather. I don't need to fight Charlo. I don't need to fight Demetrius. And even in that sense, it always confused me because, he has the Benavidez situation. Benavidez is Mexican, so why wouldn't he fight him? But my question overall is, do you see like Canelo, because, Mayweather, he changed the face of boxing. He really did. He made, companies and promotions basically say, listen, if you're not an undefeated fighter, we're going to move away from you, or we're not going to give you as much support. So we can acknowledge that. But do you think that Canelo doing what he did will set a precedent? Because as of right now, with the Shakur Stevenson fight and the Devin Haney situation, we have to acknowledge both of those situations only happened because Devin Haney was in the situation with Lomachenko. Lomachenko's whole country went into a war. That's the only reason Devin Haney got his shot, because Lomachenko wasn't going to really put up a much of an effort money-wise because of Bob Arum and that situation. And with Shakur Stevenson, the Crawford lawsuit. So, obviously those situations only got panned out because of extreme background. But do you think because Canelo's doing what he did, it's going to change how other fighters that aren't black, who are coming into it, and even black fighters themselves, do you think it's going to change and people are just going to say, all right, I'm going to work this way, or I'm going to do the way Canelo did?
That's a great question, my brother. Now, first of all, I mean, it's so many ways to answer that question because you brought up so many great points, and I want to respond to a lot of things you said in a conversation where we could talk them back and forth. But, first of all, like you said, Canelo Alvarez, first of all, let's start it off with this. Canelo Alvarez always talk about payday, payday, payday. But ironically, he turns down his biggest paydays. He just turned down 55 million plus pay-per-view against Errol Spence, even though Errol Spence had to move up 3 weight divisions, which is shocking. He turned down 50 million against Charlo, 55 million against Benavidez, 40 million against Andre for Undisputed, his biggest payday at the time.
Yep.
So we see a pattern. NBF, right? That's why he created the NBF Witness Protection franchise. He's the pioneer of that. So, now it's one thing if Canelo beat Floyd Mayweather. If he beat Floyd Mayweather, then decided to go this route, it would make more sense because then he could say, yeah, I beat the best African-American fighter that the world had to offer. But it's the other way around. It's the contrary. Canelo is famously known for losing every single minute of every single round to Floyd Mayweather. So in a way, he should make it up by fighting all these fighters on the coincidental list to make up that loss. That's a capital L. that he never avenged, and he couldn't avenge because he wasn't even in the fight against an old man that was 15 pounds smaller than him. So, you know, like Floyd Mayweather, right? He fought all these undefeated fighters. He fought all these Mexican fighters from Canelo to even Filipino fighters, Pacquiao, Sugar Shane Mosley. He fought everybody. But Canelo Alvarez, in a way, he should pay back in order to pay back the loss he received, in order to avenge that loss. He should fight all these fighters on the coincidental list to make up for that loss, because it should hurt him inside. Like, man, I lost to this fighter on the coincidental list, this African American fighter. You know what? On every Mexican holiday, I'm going to pay back all the people that were tuning in for my failure, to all my people. As a man, I'm going to fight all these fighters on the coincidental list, from Charlo, Andre, even Benavidez, right? So he did the contrary, though. He went the witness protection route.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the
can
ironic.
I say this?
Yeah, that's the
okay.
Just one last thing. That's the ironic part about it. Yeah, instead of you making up for you losing, you choose not to fight another undefeated African American fighter again. You know, he will fight a Kirkland, a C-level fighter, Jacob, a B-level fighter that already been knocked out before. Kirkland got knocked out by a guy with 6 knockouts, you know, before Canelo fought him. So we see a pattern. He's only willing to fight fighters on the coincidental list when they are B, C, or even Z level, like Makabu, you know. But when it's an A-level fighter like Andre or Charlo, he either waving the white flag or requesting witness protection. So that's why it's ironic for him to tell Valdez to fight Shakur and force him to fight Shakur, but he won't fight Andre. He won't fight Charlo. That's why if you see
exactly
him,
and his reaction during the fight,
exactly his reaction
during the fight shows that.
Yeah, he looked lost. He didn't know what instructions to give. Usually Canelo Alvarez will be screaming out instructions. Like when his other boy fought, I think I'm not sure what his name is. He fought on the zone. He was screaming out instructions the whole fight. He was fired up, even though his homeboy was getting beat. It didn't stop Canelo from giving out instructions. But if you peep against Shakur Stevenson, Canelo was puzzled. He was as clueless as Oscar Valdez. He was like, man, Oscar, don't even look at me. As I'm as clueless as you are. I don't know what the hell he doing. I've been there, done that when I fought Floyd Mayweather. Why do you think I started the NBF franchise? You know, the NBF league in the sport of boxing, you know?
And one thing I could definitely say about Canelo's history, and you know, this is the thing, like, I'm Afro-Latino. My father's Black, my mom's Puerto Rican. So I've been around the boxing scene since like the late 90s. And for the most part, like the route that Canelo has been taking, like you can see, like with Floyd, it's like so night and day. Like Floyd literally had to grind and get to a position where he can call himself the best. And even if you look at his resume, after he fought Gotti, he fought the likes of like the Drunken Master, Justin Juco. We're not including obviously Corrales and Gennaro Hernandez, but he worked his way to get to that position. And I think it's just wild to me that, you know, I see people in the comments a lot of times say like, oh, he fought Lara, he fought Kirkland. And it's like, all right, granted, Lara was a good fighter, but unfortunately, as you see Lara's style, it's not that competitive when it comes to the pro boxing scene. That's a fortunate case with a lot of Cuban boxers, that their style really doesn't come off looking as competitive because they fight on the outside. But realistically, it's still a competitive fight. So really the only person that he can say that, you know, he won a fight over was Kirkland. And that Kirkland fight was Kirkland coming off a 2-year layoff, a loss, and switching his trainer. So it's just really crazy to me that you see a lot of the smoke and mirrors when it comes to Canelo's career. And it's like the fan base basically, you know, says nothing about it. For me, I used to be a fan of Canelo. You know, right before the Triple G situation, I thought he was going to fight Charlo. You know, I was hoping that he was going to do that, but then he got tagged for the clenbuterol, and that upset me as a fan. So I'm like, all right, he's not fighting the best, and then he's creating this stagnant position in the division. And credit to him, at least he moved up. Triple G stood there and fought Canelo and then held up the division up until now with the Murata fight, which granted it was a good fight, but come on, let's be real. Like, if Triple G really wanted to be competitive, he would go out and fight, even if it's a loss. He knows he on the back end of his career. He could fight literally Charlo. He could fight Andre, and even if it's a bad fight or even if he loses, he'll get recognition for that fight instead of what he's doing now, going against Canelo. And literally, no offense to Triple G or his fans, he's destroying his legacy by literally knowing for a fact that he's going into a ring with somebody that already has had biased judging in both the fights, not just one time, two times. So why would you do a third fight and you're at 40 years old where you could get a Charlo fight and at least if you lose, you get notoriety. Charlo is going to take that fight to the distance, but it's going to be a good fight. And that's why I'm just really upset on the Canelo situation because he's really literally creating his own narrative. And the narrative is that Demetrius doesn't want to fight nobody else, and Charlo isn't trying to fight anybody else. When everyone knows that these divisions are dictated by star power, so if Canelo leaves a division, then yes, it's going to be harder for them to go out and fight each other because they need more star power. It's not as simple as them fight each other and then Canelo comes in. That's not how boxing works. So that's why I ask you these questions because I just see this consistent thing that's going on. And I know for a fact, I don't care what anybody says, Canelo is not fighting Charlo. He's not fighting Benavidez, and he's not going to fight Demetrius. It's already set in stone. All the things that he's done to this point has shown that he's going to basically do the Triple G fight as a consolidation and then stay at his division. But the question is, realistically, is he going to stay at 168 or stay at light heavyweight? But realization is he already did undisputed. So it makes sense that Canelo is not, he's literally trying to set up the light heavyweight division for the rest of his career and basically move from there. So it's like, why is no one acknowledging that he basically used these divisions to get his notoriety and then moved up to a higher division to the point where he could block out other fighters? Like, I'm sorry for taking up your time, but it really just blinds me.
You're bringing up a lot of great points that a lot of casual fans are not aware of or don't seem to care about because they just want to blindly defend Canelo Alvarez. But, he will move up and fight Makabu at cruiserweight. And then when a certain division has a belt that's available against the weaker opposition, he will take that belt. We know how Canelo Alvarez move. A lot of people compare or try to justify the way Canelo move and say, but Floyd Mayweather, look at what Floyd Mayweather did as Money Mayweather. What you guys got to realize is that when Floyd Mayweather, first of all, Floyd Mayweather had two different stages. Pretty Boy, which is like the boogeyman stage where he fought and everybody was ducking him, but he still fought everybody that was available to fight him. But then when he became Money Mayweather, unlike Canelo, they were both shot callers, right? But unlike Canelo, Floyd Mayweather, he chose the fight that everyone was asking him to fight. Back in 2009, as soon as Marquez called him out, he fought him, right? But after that, everybody kept begging him and about the Pacquiao fight. He sent Pacquiao an offer. Pacquiao turned it down because of a steroid test. If you look back, they said, we'll fight Sugar Shane Mosley then. He fought Sugar Shane Mosley. You can see a lot of interviews. They kept telling him, you ducking Shane, you ducking Shane, you ducking Shane, even though Shane was just ducking him when he was Pretty Boy. Floyd said, you know what? Bring me Shane. Then after that, every time they pointed at a fighter, they were saying he was ducking Canelo at one point. He said, bring me on Canelo. Fight Trout. Yeah. If you beat him, I'll fight you next. He fought Canelo. They say Maidana after he beat Broner. He fought Maidana. They said Pacquiao. Once Pacquiao took the steroid test, he fought Pacquiao. So my point is whenever they told Floyd to fight somebody, he fought him immediately. It didn't take no years. Man, we've been telling Canelo to fight Charlo and Andre for the past 8 years, and he ain't fought him to this day. I mean,
and let me say this at least about Pretty Boy. I think sometimes some people might get offended by this, but I do think that sometimes we do discredit the Pretty Boy era because if we're being real honest, the only people that really ducked Mayweather during that era was 3 fighters. Costa Tzu, Antonino Popo Freitas, and Joel Casamayor. But other than that, Mayweather fought everybody. So besides those three fighters, and let's be real, with those three fighters, they all lost when they went against competition that Mayweather already had beaten. So it's like, realistically, it's like, I feel like at this point, Canelo has no excuses.
You said they avoided Floyd Mayweather, right?
Yes.
Because Costa Tzu, Floyd Mayweather called out Costa Tzu, and Costa Tzu wasn't interested.
Yes, he called them out, and then when he moved up, Costa Tzu basically had lost the belt. So he didn't want to fight Floyd before he lost it. Antonino Popo Freitas was at 135. Was at 130 and then moved up to 135. And the same thing with Joel Casamayor. He was at 135 and moved up to 140 all around the same time when Mayweather was calling these guys out. So even though, you feel me, even though those guys did what they did, Mayweather still got his comeuppance. So I feel like at the end of the day, Canelo has no excuses because it don't matter which side of Mayweather you look at. Mayweather still fought the best fighters. And if you want to be called the top fighter in the generation, then there can be no dispute about any of the fights that you come into. And that's the thing I always hate about Mayweather. I love about him is that he was so good in the ring, but he beat guys so easily. It created the disparity that we see now where most people come into a fight thinking, oh, for example, we see it now with the Terrence Crawford and Spence fight. Fans are just like, oh, Spence is going to wash Crawford. He's way bigger than him. But realistically, that's not going to go. That's not how the fight's going to go because it's two elite fighters going against each other. Two elite fighters are going to make less and less mistakes than an average B or C level fighter. So it's like Mayweather was so good to the point where now you have other fighters literally scared to go in there and go against top competition like Canelo, like Valdez, because of what they've seen what this guy can pull off. And once again, it's like I said, I think it's, it's bad for business because ultimately if Canelo says, all right, I'm not going to go in there, then what is going to be the heritage and the tradition of the sport moving forward? Because ultimately the Europeans, they're doing well right now, but they haven't always been, they're not money makers. We know this. The only real money makers in boxing is the Latino fan base, the Eastern European fan base, like from Russia, et cetera, Ukraine, and obviously the Brits, and then USA. But other than that, everyone else doesn't make a lot of money. So my thing is that exactly that moving forward, Canelo sets this precedent. Less Latin fighters are going to want to fight black fighters, which creates that precedent where we won't get the best fights, and then it's going to be harder for the black fighters who are really good to move up. Because let's be real, how do black fighters get to the top of their level? They get to the top of their level by beating the top elite Hispanic, Latino, Latin America fighters. So if these fighters are saying we don't want to go in there, we're going to make it harder, then to me, it sets a bad precedent for the future of boxing. Now everyone is going to look at themselves as, we could be like them, but realistically, it comes down to skill. So it's setting a bad precedent because, once again, like I said, I hate saying this, but Canelo has not improved since he fought Mayweather. Has not improved from that situation. He has not become a better fighter, and everyone just believes he's unbeatable. No, the real thing is he's really setting himself up against fighters who he knows he has the ultimate advantage over. That's not competitive. And everyone's like, yeah, he's defeating these guys. So it's like, I just get upset because it's like, it's not like the Shakur, like, look what happened with Shakur Stevenson versus Valdez. Look what people are saying on the internet. Because Shakur Stevenson didn't knock this guy out, oh, he don't have killer instincts. He don't have this. The guy's from Brick City North. I grew up with this kid, bro. So it's like, ultimately, like, what are people saying? Shakur is not a top elite type fighter because he didn't go in there and completely wash him. But, it's like, it's just getting to the point where it's like, I see this bad. It's basically, the people who don't go in there, the people who go in there and just do wars are the ones who are being favored. And the boxers, who literally stay up, train to specialize and build their craft are now being called boring. And that's like, the term in itself is race predicated. And it's like getting to the point where I'm like, all right, Canelo Alvarez is creating an environment that's not conducive to good boxing. So, thank you for your time, AKHi. I just want to, feel me?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah. See, you brought up a lot of great points, but you throwing so many great points out there that I gotta touch on. First of all, when it comes to the boring
Hmm.
situation, yeah, they started this whole narrative. First of all, the question should be, why didn't Oscar Valdez go out on his shield? Because if Oscar was willing to go out on his shield in order to win, Shakur Stevenson would have knocked him out. But he chose to fight to survive. So of course, Shakur Stevenson was going to go the distance. But more importantly, you know, we like they try to change the narrative that, oh look, we want to see a war, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, or at least the night, people watch movies, superheroes, because we attracted to seeing things that we can't do physically. When you watch Shakur, you appreciate what he does because man, he's so talented. The way he dodged a punch, the way like he could, like a bullet, and then comes back with a counter. That's impressive to me.
Hmm.
That's exciting. That's entertaining. But they flip the narrative as if, oh, that's boring. But then when Willie Pep, they always brag about Willie Pep moving for a whole round, not throwing a single punch and not getting hit the entire round, but he won the round. If any fighter on the coincidental list does that today, they're gonna call him boring for the rest of his career. So we clearly see the double standards. But more importantly, when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, what you guys have to realize, when it comes to Canelo, he grew up. He grew up watching his favorite fighters lose to the fighters on the coincidental list. And I always say boxing is built on nationality and pride. So when Canelo grew up watching his favorite fighters lose to these fighters on the coincidental list, you guys could check the stats. You guys could do the homework. 99% of all fighters lost their undefeated record, or they lost for sure to an undefeated Black American fighter or to a Black fighter, period. But more importantly, they lost their undefeated record to a fighter on the coincidental list. Chavez Sr., Barrera, Canelo Alvarez. That's just few names that come to mind. They lost their undefeated record to fighters on the coincidental list. So Canelo knows the pattern. Matter of fact, it happened to him. So that's why he chose this path of creating the NBF league in the sport of boxing, because what's understood don't have to be explained. Just like basketball, the best athletes in basketball are all the Black athletes, just like it is in boxing. So what Canelo decided to do, he decided to eliminate them from the race. So he only decided to race against Europeans and then claim he's the fastest man in the world, but he won't race against the Devin Haneys, the Shakur, the Charlo, the Andre. He won't race against them guys, but he claims he's the fastest. Meanwhile, they're the fastest when it comes to their speed, when it comes to their running. So is Canelo really the fastest in the world? Of course not, because he doesn't race against the fighters on the coincidental list. It's an NBF league, which is what you talked about. See, Floyd Mayweather changed the game like you talked about because he fought the best and beat the best. But he kept his undefeated record at the same time, right? That's how he became so popular.
Yeah.
That's why he sold all these pay-per-views. Floyd didn't just sell all these pay-per-views because people liked them and tuned on the TV. No, of course not. People tuned in because he
they want to see the best lose.
Yeah, he fought the best every time, and they really thought he was going to lose. So they tuned in, but he beat him with ease. That's why even Mike said, I don't like Floyd. I got to give him his credit. Every time I told him fight somebody, he went out there and fought him and he watched him. That's what he told Jamel Charlo during their the podcast. So my point is, Canelo Alvarez, on the other hand, he does the exact opposite. We tell him fight Charlo. We tell him fight Andre. Yeah. We tell him fight Charlo, fight Andre, fight Benavidez, payday.
No, meanwhile, he called him boring. Payday.
Horrible fighter. Then he fight Ivy.
First of all,
what is Ivy? What is Ivy?
Can his fans acknowledge the fact that literally using the term payday is literally so redundant in boxing, because that's the point of being the top boxer in boxing.
Exactly.
Yes, Mayweather got literally paid, like money made, not just because he changed his form, and no, like Mayweather was always consistent with his boxing. The only difference is that he broke his hand twice in both hands, and then basically had to switch up from using heavy punches. But other than that, what made him money made was the fact that you went into that fight and you were gonna get paid. You were actually going. You didn't have to sit there and take a big steep in the cut. You didn't sit there because look at now, right? Look at what Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney has to do to get both of those fights. Mayweather wasn't doing that to other people so that they couldn't get their fights. He made it equal so that everyone made money, and that was the beautiful thing about Mayweather. Now, somehow fighters getting paydays is a bad thing. It makes no sense. It's literally the most redundant topic in boxing, and unfortunately, I think it's the same thing. It's corroding boxing because what does a payday mean? Like,
let me ask you this question. If Canelo always says payday, why is he turning down his biggest paydays though? Against Benavidez, Errol Spence, and Charlo, Andre, for his biggest payday, for his biggest legacy fights at the same time.
Yeah.
If it's all about payday, right? How come Canelo turns down his biggest paydays?
I mean, honestly, from my point of view, when it comes to that situation in itself, it just makes clear sense. The way Canelo looks at it is that if he go, because first of all, I mean, let's forget about it. Like, if we're really talking about it, 154, he lost to Mayweather. So his legacy in 154 is nothing.
He arguably lost to Lara too. He arguably lost to Lara.
Exactly. Literally, he lost to Lara, and then he basically lost to Lara, but once again it came down to the decision, which we know in boxing is always a complicated situation.
About money, it's always money driven.
160,
160
exactly. It's always about.
And arguably lost to Triple G twice.
Literally. So, and then 160, he had the franchise belt. So realistically, it's so obvious. He doesn't want to take these fights because he already knows the precedent. If he moves back down a weight and loses these fights, it'll literally destroy any legacy that he's trying to move forward with. That's why it's so obvious that he's trying to move forward with the cruiserweight fight, with fighting Bivol. First of all, let's be real. If Canelo was the top, when has Mayweather ever went to 154 and fought the youngest fighter there, or the most inexperienced fighter there? He ain't never did that before. I'm not discrediting Bivol at all. Bivol is a beautiful fighter. I love him and Beterbiev. I've been watching these guys. Beterbiev and Usyk since the amateurs. They're my favorite. Bivol. I've watched a lot of up and coming webcam fights with him, so I know these guys and I love them. But the point is Canelo was moving up in weight. Why would he not just go fight Beterbiev and say that's hurt? He could have fought him after he fought Marcus Brown. But what happened? Literally, look at the Beterbiev versus Brown fight. He literally destroyed this guy, and he had a split cut over his head, leaking. Unfortunately, once again, the guy didn't win the fight, but it was a competitive fight, and it got stopped. Canelo wasn't going to fight Beterbiev, man. So the fact that he went to lightweight, said, I'm going to fight Kovalev on a 2-week notice for camp, which is crazy. Everyone knows you need at least 2 months for training. The fact that he did 2 weeks is crazy, and then going to go fight Bivol, whose best fight, don't get me wrong, I love Joe Smith Jr., but the kid is like Plant. He has no power in his punch. The only thing he has is slick type Black American moves. But realistically, as we know, with a lot of these fighters like Plant, like Teofimo, so on and so forth, they emulate the style, but they don't have the athleticism and the technique to really pull it off. So ultimately, he's going against somebody who, isn't really up there in that experience parameter. At least with Canelo, when he fought Floyd, he was already in there with Austin Trout, who at the time would be considered the top person at 154. So at least he went in there with the number one and then said, all right, I'll fight Mayweather. This kid hasn't even fought Beterbiev yet to even claim anything, and he's going in there to get an easy belt. So it's like, to me, how can fans sit there and take that?
One thing about Canelo legacy, if we talk about it, if you pay attention to Canelo legacy, first of all, when he fought for a vacant belt at 154, he was ranked number 4. He fought for the WBC vacant belt, against the fighter who wasn't even ranked, Ricky Hatton brother, not at 147.
Yeah.
The guy wasn't
Ricky
even.
Hatton's brother.
Yeah, I'm not. Listen, he wasn't ranked at 147, 154. Ricky Hatton brother wasn't even ranked at 147.
He moved up in weight.
Yeah, he moved up in weight, and he wasn't even ranked at the division that he moved up from 147. Right? He fought him. Marquez sued the WBC for that type of corruption. People don't talk about that, but more importantly, he lost to Floyd.
Oh, yeah.
He lost to Floyd. He lost to Lara, moved up, got caught taking steroids, arguably lost to Triple G twice, then moved up to 168 and stole David Benavidez's belt. And he haven't fought Benavidez till this day. Matter of fact, he turned down his biggest payday yet to Benavidez. He turned down Undisputed.
Yeah, and on top of that, why would he not fight Benavidez?
Because he don't fight Mexicans. He don't fight. He only fight Europeans. He told you.
Exactly.
I don't fight Mexicans. I don't fight Mexicans. He literally volunteered.
No, he fights Chavez Senior's son, who everyone knows is a joke in boxing. He made that fight so serious, like, oh, this means a lot to me, and this is a fight that's important to my race. And I'm like, bro, no one cares about Chavez. Chavez Senior even said it in public that Chavez Jr. is a joke. So why would you even take that fight? The fight that makes sense is, in my opinion, and if anybody hears this, once again, I don't want to sound subjective and opinion just on Canelo, because once again, I have opinions about Charlo. With the whole Mike Tyson interview and him embarrassing himself in that. I'm happy that Demetrius is moving up in weight and doing his thing, but it's obvious that black fighters are the ones that make this sport popular. You look at the Devin Haney fight, you look at the Shakur Stevens fight, you see the popularity in just that. But it shouldn't be that a black fighter has to force someone to get in the ring for it to happen. Or the new thing is, like Bob Arum has always done, black on black. Bob Arum, let's be real. Bob Arum is a sick guy. The fact, let's put everything aside that he's ever done in boxing, right? The fact that he sat there and promoted the undercards, sat there and then left for the promotion for the main event, and then on top of that, didn't even show up at the end to give Shakur his belt. It's like, bro, what the hell is going on? Hold. It's like, why do you think Canelo's moving like this?
Man, hold on. I want to touch about the Bob Arum situation. That's crazy because Bob came out recently and said that Undisputed is stupid. So okay, now is Undisputed is stupid. No, when Shakur wants to become Undisputed at 130, when Devin Haney wants to become Undisputed. Matter of fact, he's fighting for Undisputed at 135, one of the deepest divisions. Now is stupid. But when Lomachenko was fighting for Undisputed, it wasn't stupid. And Bob said, well, it's stupid because there's no name for Shakur really to fight at 130 like that's popular. First of all, we just seen the guy Garcia who beat B-Hop prime time. We seen how good he looked. That's a great fight down the line for Shakur, right? But my point is, when Lomachenko fought Linares and Pedraza and then Luke Campbell, he really fought two no names and one good name. Bob didn't say, oh, well, it's stupid to become Undisputed because ain't nobody in the division. But now when his fighters on the coincidental list, all of a sudden Undisputed is stupid. But when Canelo fought no names, it's the greatest thing in the world. We see what time it is, because at the end of the day, Bob is giving Shakur that Regan Diaz treatment, right? But I do want to touch on this before because I'm short on time. I got a time window, but I want to touch on this because a lot of people ask me, what's your thoughts on Devin Haney saying Canelo is pound for pound number one? Do you agree with him? How come you don't agree with Devin Haney now? So I ask these people. I always ask these people. I mean, I agree with Devin Haney with a lot of things he said. So I asked these people, do you agree when Devin Haney said the franchise is a witness protection title? The franchise is for ducks. Do you agree with Devin Haney when he said that? Because if you do, then you agree Canelo is a duck. Do you agree when Canelo says that the whole camp, Eddie Reynoso entire camp is on that shit? If you do, then you agree that Canelo is a cheat. We know that for a fact, right? So if I personally,
but that's just boxing politics. That's boxing politics. With Devin Haney. Even Devin Haney's saying it's the same thing with Devin. It's the same thing with Shakur saying Tyson Fury could beat Ali. Like, it's just things that boxers, like a lot of people, and it's unfortunate, and this does happen with a lot of casual fans. They take these words so seriously when it comes to them comparing themselves to other fighters. They're boxers. Unfortunately, once again, Devin Haney is going to say, yeah, Canelo's number one. Why? Like the same thing with Tank, the same thing with Shakur. These kids are going to say that because why? It's boxing politics. They're not going to sit there and hate on a guy because why? Because they know if they hate on this guy, these Latino fans and these Hispanic fans are basically not going to support them, not going to be intrigued with their fight and things like that. Mayweather unfortunately came at a good precedent in time where he was able to, assume the role of the villain, but also show love, gratitude, and respect to the Latin and Hispanic fans because he always did. We talk about Cinco de Mayo, that was Cinco de Mayo. Like Mayweather, that was his day. It didn't matter, and it shows that factor now, even with Canelo Alvarez, that he doesn't even control that day. He doesn't even set up the biggest fights for that day. Well, all he does is go in there with the limited fight. But let me just roll this all back in together. With the Devin Haney situation, it's always boxing politics, and that's why you see what Canelo's doing now. When I said earlier, instead of Canelo going to light heavyweight, he should have just stayed at where he's at 168 and allowed these guys to come up and just fight them there. Even if you wanted the advantage, you got it. You're asking Charlo, who's never fought at 168, to move up to 168. He will most likely do it. Benavidez is already there, so you can literally fight Benavidez now and then get Charlo right after. So it's like, the Spence fight, I don't know how that will really work because I've never seen Spence fight at 147. He's been at 147 his whole career. I don't think that he'll really, I don't think that anything higher than 154 will really set well for him. But even that fight is a big fight. So it's like ultimately he always has the advantage. If he would have just put that timeline, I feel like it would have been a better situation because now we're dealing with, and let's be real, we're looking at it. We got Canelo controlling everything above 147 in the sense, Charlo's getting his thing, the younger, the twin at 154, and that's a good fight and everything. But after that fight happens, what's next? Like, you feel me? And that's what I'm talking about. Canelo is holding a void because these fighters, yes, they want to fight each other, but they also want the credit that's due. They want the hard work that they put on. That means fighting the best. That happens because let's be real, everyone's still calling Canelo the king of 160 and the king of 154. People still call him that, even though Charlo cleaned up 154 division and it's about to become undisputed. So it's like, what can we do as fans ultimately? Because Canelo's doing this, and then you got the Bob Arum situation where Bob Arum's almost way out. Let's be real. I hate to say this, but the day he goes is going to be something else for boxing because obviously he puts good fights together, but ultimately he set a bad precedent for it. So what do we do as fans? Because we keep asking for the best fight, but
we got to call for the best fights and we got to apply pressure because the only reason Kambosos fought Devin Haney is because of the backlash after Lomachenko waved the white flag. I mean, Lomachenko went and fought obviously for his country, right? Oscar Valdez was forced to fight Shakur because of the backlash. So for Canelo case, there's a lot of backlash, but he simply don't care because he's like, man, look, at the end of the day, you ain't gonna force me to fight these fighters on the coincidental list because there's a great possibility that I could lose. But what I was getting to with the Devin Haney situation is, what they do. See, these fighters follow the popular narrative. That it's a lot of deception. Like I said, I always say if there's 100 people in a room and 99 people saying that 2 + 2 is equal 5. Now the answer is 4, but you might start questioning yourself. Like, hold on, is the answer 4 or is it 5? Because everybody's screaming out 5. Am I crazy? And that's the old media. That's the most powerful weapon that old media has is numbers. Is deception. Is their narrative that they push with their old media machine. And see when Devin
look
Haney,
at the Shakur fight.
Yeah, and when Devin Haney came out and said that Canelo entire camp is on that shit. When Devin Haney said that the franchise is for ducks and Canelo created the duck belt, right? So when Devin Haney said these things, you got to realize we live in a social media time where you could really reach anybody. So he received a lot of backlash for speaking the truth. After he received a lot of backlash for receiving the truth, for speaking the truth, he decided to make it up by pleasing the Canelo fans to say something that they want to hear. Oh, Canelo number one. You know what? You know what, guys? Canelo number one. But clearly it doesn't add up, because if Canelo is a cheat and he's on steroids, if Canelo is a duck, well, being a cheat and a duck doesn't add up to becoming pound for pound number one. You can't say someone is the best while being a cheat and a duck at the same time, right? So we clearly know Devin Haney was forced to say that by Canelo fans because of the backlash he received, right? So we see the pattern. These fighters like Gervonta, like Devin Haney, anybody they say Canelo's number one is because of the deception and the manipulation by old media, because they forced to. If they say otherwise, they're going to receive a lot of backlash, which that's exactly what they try to avoid. However, in the sport of boxing, being the best pound for pound, being pound for pound number one doesn't mean the most popular fighter in the world. Being the number one pound for pound means who is the best in the world. Now, me and you could agree, if Crawford was in Canelo's shoes today, we see it. We know it's a fact. He want to fight Errol Spence and he want to fight Jamel Charlo. Canelo turned down the Jamel Charlo fight at 154 to fight Crooklyn, a C-level fighter that got knocked out. Matter of fact, Canelo actually turned down that fight, for the people that don't know. So Jamel left Golden Boy. Crawford moving up in weight. He want to fight Errol Spence for undisputed, and he want to fight Jamel Charlo for undisputed. Unlike Canelo, who turned down undisputed
don't get me on
against
about
Andre
Crawford, bro.
to fight for the weakest.
Don't get me on about Crawford, bro.
You know,
Crawford's like,
yeah.
Let me say this: Crawford, he's one. Yo, Crawford is one of the most when we talk about this era of boxing, and we talk about the way Canelo moves and the way Bob Arum moves, we always have to acknowledge that Terrence Crawford literally gets discredited just because of all of these things that are going on. Like the fact that he moved through three divisions, the fact that he beat every person that was in front of him at the time. On top of that, beat them in convincing fashion. Yeah, of course. Like it's like people say, "Oh, well, he fought these B-level fighters, this and that." Bro, you can't call someone a B-level fighter. To me personally, in my opinion, when we call B-level fighters, we talk about fighters who had their worst performance and then went on to fight an elite fighter and took an out. If you look at every single person Crawford faced, they were coming off their best performances. We're talking about Beltran, who was still very considered one of the top at 135 during that period in time. We're talking about Ricky Burns, who was literally sensational in England, stopping people, and then Crawford goes in there and has to deal with biasing, commentary, and all these things. Gamboa, who was, once again, one of the few Cuban fighters who had his own unique style and was very aggressive and territorial in the ring. People still to this day try to discredit him for even that fight. So my thing is, that's why I'm so happy that Shakur can't.
You got to add on. You got to add on Postal, who they said he was ducking, who knocked out Matisse. Then
Postal, Diaz Jr.,
who beat
Diaz Jr. Yep,
and Diaz, who knocked out, who beat Lamar Pearson at the time, who was a gold medalist. Then he moved up Jeff Horn, who beat Pacquiao at the time. Then you got Benavidez, you got Kell Brook, you got Sean Porter. I mean, we know what time it is. So the point I'm making, you see what Crawford want to do. He ain't satisfied. He want Errol Spence. Yeah. He wants Jamel Charlo. And he want to fight the best.
He's a dog. I mean, I love Errol, but Errol sometimes he is biased. Like, let's put it out there. Like, let's be like, I'm a big Errol Spence fan and Terrence Crawford. So it hurts me every day to go in the comments and see people literally argue about their resumes. Let's be real. Terrence Crawford does have the better resume because ultimately, if we're talking boxing politics, Spence, he had to stay at 147. He stayed there for a long period of time. Didn't get his chance at a belt from his own promotion company. He had to get it. He literally got it from being a mandatory and fighting Kell Brook. So, and even then, did Thurman want to get in the ring with him? No. Did Porter try to get in the ring with him? No. Did Garcia get in the ring with him? No. He had to wait really to get those fights where all those those moments he was waiting, Crawford was going test for test against bigger and better opponents. So people want to compare resumes, but ultimately, three fights does not compare to an entire 3 divisions. It's literally illogical. So to me, I feel like people disrespect Terence Crawford just on his legacy, just on what he does. But at the same time, I love Spence. The way he fights, his humble attitude, and everything he's done, even through his amateur up until now, I love what he does. So for me, I've always been a big Spence fan because the fact that when he first got to 147, people weren't, trying to fight him and things like that. But I'm not going to sit there and discredit Terence Crawford just because I want Spence to win. That makes absolutely no sense. It's a good fight for boxing, period. And both.
I'm sure on time. There's another guy calling. Let me go ahead and pick up his call because I only got like 10, 15 minutes left. So let me pick up his call. This is my man from New Jersey. You said.
Yes, Frisky Dingo. You can check my YouTube out, Frisky Dingo. I do a little bit of everything. I'm a streamer and whatnot. So for the most part, just check out my webpage and my Twitter and my Twitch, Frisky Dingo, 3 O's. And yeah, one more thing. I love what Shakur Stevenson is doing. I hate old media for the fact that they sat there and immediately when Shakur won said, "Oh, you're gonna fight Devin Haney? What about the 2 other champions at 130?" So I hope we can continue to prevail and do what we got to do. And shout out to you, AKHi, and blessings, and happy Ed McFarlane. I don't know how to really say it, but you feel me? Shout out to you, bro.
Hey, make sure you
call me. Shout out to you.
Follow me on Instagram and make sure you follow. You follow me on Instagram. Reach out to me, but
okay.
Call back and Eid Mubarak. And like you said, that's another great point. When it comes to Shakur Stevenson, they want the fighters on the coincidental list to go ahead and eliminate each other.
Fight each other.
Yeah, they simply want them to eliminate each other. That's why they did that. But let me go ahead and get to
but Valdez could move down to 128 for fighting Navarrete, but him fighting Shakur Stevenson or anybody else fighting him is so out of pocket. So shout out to you, bro. Keep doing your thing. We'll talk again.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Hello, how you doing, AKHi? Who this is? Where you calling from?
How you doing? Did you hear me?
Yes, sir. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Lucas. I'm calling from Montreal, Canada.
Oh, okay. From Canada.
And,
what's up now? What's your prediction for Canelo versus Bivol?
Yeah, I think that's a very underrated fight. I think Bivol has more chance than people think, and I think it's a bigger fight. In my personal opinion, I think it's a bigger fight than the Shakur Stevenson against Valdez because with Valdez, in my opinion, had no chance to beat Stevenson, but Bivol, in my opinion, have a chance to beat Canelo. So I think Canelo gonna win, but I think it's a 60-40 fight. And I don't want to know what is your opinion on the fight.
Yeah, well, when it comes to that fight in particular, I truly believe either Canelo is going to win by knockout or Bivol by decision. However, he can't get a decision because of Putin and everything. And you going up against Canelo? Absolutely not. It's not going to happen. It's definitely going to be a robbery if it goes to decision. But I could see Canelo knocking him out as well. It could go either 2 ways, Canelo by knockout or Canelo by robbery. Now, the thing about Bivol, he's a European fighter, straight up and down, doesn't have upper body movement, doesn't have head movement. He comes in and out. Now, when you come in and out, he has a great control of distance. However, like I said, when he comes in and out, he doesn't move his head, nor he has upper body movement. So you will leave yourself to be countered by Canelo. And Canelo recently said that he loved fighting Europeans. Matter of fact, if I quote him exactly, he said, "I know how to beat these guys, the Canelo, the Kovalevs, Bivol, Triple G's." Canelo pretty much said he knows how to beat the European style. Canelo feels that the Mexican style is the European style kryptonite because European fighters are vulnerable to the body and they only rely on footwork to avoid punches. instead of upper body movement and head movement, like we see fighters on the coincidental list from Shakur to Floyd Mayweather, the things that they are able to do, like Andre, which is move your head, move your head, your upper body, your upper body, pretty much be athletic enough to be able to do these things. However, Bivol is not athletic enough to, move his head, and he don't have the necessary upper body movement to avoid getting hit from Canelo Alvarez all night. So I see Canelo eventually being able to catch him with that shot, because what Canelo tends to do, he tries to time you coming in. If you ducking low to avoid the uppercut, he will try to throw an uppercut while you ducking low. If you throwing a jab coming forward, he will try to throw that overhand and try to catch you coming in. So there's so many things that Canelo looks toward when it comes to countering, that I think Bivol will give him an opportunity to counter eventually. The $1 million question is, can Bivol take Canelo Alvarez's punch, and can he avoid getting caught with the one that's going to put his lights out? That's the $1 million question. But nevertheless, I see Bivol, the skill set he brings to the table from his jab alone, and certain things that I've seen from Bivol as far as control of distance, I truly believe he will give Canelo a hard time. Most likely a better fight than Caleb Plant. But like I said, the $1 million question, will Canelo Alvarez catch up to him? So we'll see how can Bivol avoid the body shots from Canelo and the head shots from Canelo as well. And if he's able to go the distance, if he is, can he be dominant enough to beat Canelo? We shall see.
Yeah. And we all know Canelo have problems with people who have good feet, are good on their feet and on their feet. And Bivol is very good on his feet. He moves well. He throw a lot of combination. So it's an interesting fight. I think if Canelo knocks Bivol out, Canelo gonna be. Yeah, I think like you, it's a Canelo knockout or Bivol decision. I think if we go to decision, I think if Bivol don't break on the Canelo pressure, I think gonna win by decision. But that's the question. Is he gonna break under pressure?
Yeah.
That's I'm not sure. But if he don't break under pressure and go 12 rounds with Canelo, I think he can I think he can outbox Canelo. Sorry for my English. My first language is French, so my English is not very good.
No, you're doing
but,
a good job. You're doing a great
think,
job. See, yeah, when it comes to Bivol, he remind me of Postal. If you know Postal, he, like I said,
yeah. Postal, yeah.
Yeah, he got good footwork, but like I said, he lacks the necessary head movement and upper body movement to really stay out of trouble and avoid the necessary counters that might get him out of there against Canelo Alvarez. So, like I said, can he handle the pressure? Can he avoid? Can he avoid the body shots? And can he also avoid getting caught with too many clean blows? Like I said, even if it goes to decision, can he be dominant enough where he wins every single round? Because if he doesn't, he ain't gonna get the decision if he wins 8-4. That's how I see it. I see Bivol winning 8-4, 7-3 if it goes to a decision. But if it doesn't go to a decision, then I see Canelo Alvarez knocking him out because, like I said, he lacks the necessary head movement and upper body movement to avoid getting caught all night. But I want to get your take. Canelo Alvarez pretty much sacrificed Oscar Valdez, to Shakur Stevenson to the NBF league, something that Canelo Alvarez himself is not willing to do. So Valdez revealed that Canelo forced him pretty much to take the fight because he liked his chances. But to me, I looked at that as sacrificing, because how can Canelo ask Valdez to do something he's not willing to do? Canelo is not willing to fight Andre for undisputed for his biggest payday at the time. Canelo is not willing to fight Charlo for 45 million plus. Canelo is not willing to fight Errol Spence for 55 million plus, while he has to move up 3 different weight divisions. So if Canelo's not willing to fight the Charlo twins, the Andrades, the Fabulous Four of his time, how can he force Valdez to take the Shakur Stevenson fight? What's your take on
that? Honestly, I don't know, because I don't know if he really forced Oscar Valdez, fight Chicken Vincent. But I think, in my personal opinion, that Canelo is not the guy who makes the choice. I think he has a team behind him who
Well, his team
decides who he's
encouraged him.
going to face next.
Yeah, well, his team encouraged him to
Yeah,
fight Shakur because they said it's not a good look for you to fight Navarrete because of the backlash when he took steroids and then or PEDs, and then the backlash of him ducking Shakur. He was almost forced to take the fight. I mean, and a lot of people don't give credit to Terrence Crawford. The lawsuit definitely played a major role because the lawsuit opened the doors for Shakur because Bob was now forced to do something he didn't want to do. That's why he walked out of the stage with from the press conference and stuff like that. So it's all of the above. It's Canelo, his team telling Valdez to do the right thing, and then of course Terrence Crawford lawsuit. But my question is, why is Canelo telling Valdez to do the right thing? Meanwhile, he's not willing to do the right thing himself.
Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. But I don't think Canelo personally is scared of this guy, because at this level, I don't think anybody is scared of anybody else.
So why he didn't fight them?
I think this is my opinion. I think his team behind him know what to do and know the best fighter for Canelo. So they know the right style, to pick the right style for Canelo.
Yeah,
so maybe it's cold and
they don't believe he could beat him. But when Lara, Oscar De La Hoya didn't want Canelo to fight Lara. He fought Lara because that's what Canelo wanted to do. Canelo is the boss. He could fight whoever he want to fight. So there is no excuses. Canelo, out of his own mouth, he said he want to fight for undisputed at middleweight. He said Andre going to be next if Andre got the belt. But when it came down to it, he vacated all of his belts and avoided the Andre fight. So clearly, he didn't want to fight, Andre and Charlo, because he turned down his biggest paydays for his biggest legacy days, in order to avoid those guys. But anyways, my brother, let me go ahead and get the last caller before I end the show.
Okay. I can take you.
Thank you, brother. How you doing, Aki? Who this is and where you calling from? Hello?
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's up? I'm from New York. What's up, Aki?
What's going on with you? Now, who you picking, Canelo, Bivol, and why and how?
I'm picking Canelo just because of his power. But I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Why do you not keep the same energy? Why do you not keep the same energy when Charlo says he doesn't want to fight Andrade because he ain't a nobody? But Charlo ain't fighting nobody himself. And why don't you mention that Canelo turned down the fight? Charlo turned down the fight also for Canelo in 2019.
Let me respond to the question. You said, well, I didn't keep the same energy. So
my bad.
I didn't make 5 to 10 videos on that subject.
I'm not sure, bro. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Well, if you're not sure, do your homework. If you're not sure,
but why don't you think that?
I did.
So what do you think about Andrade? What do you think about Andrade? What do you think about Charlo saying he don't want to fight Andrade because he's nobody yet? Charlo was playing Hogan, all these nobody.
How many?
And why did Charlo turn down a fight with Canelo in 2019?
You want me to say it 1,000,000 times? I said it. He ducking. So what do you want me to say?
Okay, so what? So can Charlo duck Canelo?
Canelo ducked Charlo. See, you don't keep the same.
No, he didn't. You offered him a fight in 2019, brother.
Pause.
No, he didn't, brother.
Hold on. Let's pause, because I just caught you in a contradiction. See, I keep the same energy. I'm always consistent with the truth. I call a spade a spade. You said, do I believe Charlo ducked Andre? Of course.
I give you credit for calling Charlo.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, of course. I keep the same energy, but you don't. But you don't. You don't keep the same energy, because when I told you, you don't want to admit Canelo's ducking Charlo and Andre. You don't keep the same energy. I keep
How
the
is he
same energy.
ducking Charlo? He offered him to fight in 2019, bro.
Okay, so did Canelo turn down 45 million plus pay-per-view to fight Charlo? Yes or no?
I'm not sure. Did he?
Well, do your homework. Yes, he
Is
did.
that true? Is that confirmed?
Yes, he did.
I have
Canelo
to look
confirmed
into it, but
Well,
then none of that
well,
matters because Canelo sent him an offer in 2019.
Okay. So
Why didn't Charlo accept in 2019?
Okay, well, let me ask you this question: Why did Charlo end up with Canelo belt in 2019? If that's the case,
Bro, how is that relevant? My question is, why didn't Charlo accept the fight in 2019?
I
Why?
just told you. I told you he did, because why did Charlo end up with Canelo belt? If Charlo didn't accept,
He turned it
Canelo
down.
offer,
Did they fight? If he accepted it, they would have fight.
so why did he? So how did Charlo end up with his belt then?
He obviously ain't get it from Canelo because they didn't fight, and he did turn down his
Canelo.
contract.
He got it
in
from Canelo.
2019,
Canelo was the champion. Canelo was the
Canelo
WBC champion.
either vacated.
Nah,
Did they fight?
Nah.
Did they fight?
Well, vacated. Why did he vacate if Charlo turned down an offer? He don't have to vacate. He could keep his title if Charlo turned down an offer.
You see what Canelo's doing now? He tried to go undisputed at 175. Charlo want to play games. Why should he wait for it? He made the offer. Charlo turned it down.
Let me ask you this question: Did Devin Haney vacate his WBC belt when Ryan Garcia turned down a fight?
No. That I fuck with Devin
Exactly.
Haney.
No, that's my point. He didn't vacate his belt because Ryan didn't want to fight. But Canelo he vacated his title because it was Canelo who didn't want to fight. It was Canelo who turned down the fight.
How does he not want to fight in the offer, bro?
That's why Charlo ended up with his belt. The way you ain't
Charlo ended up with the belt. He ended up fighting him because he turned down the contract, bro.
You just said you trolling now because you just said Charlo ended up with Canelo.
No, I'm not trolling, bro. He turned down a fight, bro.
Charlo ended up with Canelo belt.
He turned out. Did Canelo vacate after he offered? Did he wait for Charlo all his life? Did he wait for Charlo to grow balls? Did he wait for Charlo to actually stop struggling?
If you keep cutting me off, I'm gonna have to let you go.
Did he wait till he was an old man and Charlo fighter?
All right, you're doing it to yourself. You're just trolling. You're just trolling at this point. So you got to go. You tapping out. Hold this L.
All right, bro. All right.
This is what I'm talking about. See. They want to troll, but they don't want to speak factually. Like I said before, at the end of the day, or at least the night, Devin Haney didn't vacate his WBC belt when Ryan Garcia turned down a fight with Devin Haney because Ryan turned down the belt. Turned down the fight. If Charlo turned down an offer from Canelo, then Canelo would have never requested the franchise. Why did Canelo request the franchise, the witness protection franchise? Because he turned down a fight with Jamal Charlo. And that's why Jamal Charlo became the WBC champion, because Canelo Alvarez got stripped. And that's why this emotional fan who's not consistent, who don't keep the same energy, you see him tapping out. He can't respond to the question. He can't respond to the fact that Canelo requested the franchise witness protection to avoid Jamal Charlo. And Jamal Charlo got elevated to a full status of becoming the WBC champion because it was Canelo who turned down the fight. If Charlo turned down the Canelo fight, then Charlo will have never became a champion, just like Ryan Garcia. And that's a fact. It's always facts over emotion. Like I said before, I'm always consistent with the truth. You decafs are not consistent with the truth. How you doing, Aki? Who this is and where you calling from?
Yeah, it's the same. I'm the guy from Montreal.
Oh, okay.
I just want to add something. I think B-ball is a bigger danger for Canelo than Bitter.
Yeah, styles make fights.
Because
so we'll see.
Yeah. So I'm not agreeing with people say, Canelo dug Bitterviev because Bivol, I think Bivol is a bigger risk than Bitterviev because Bivol move a lot, through a combination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we'll see. We know it's MBF. That's what one thing we do know is MBF. Canelo is the European assassin. So we shall see if the European assassin will get assassinated by Bivol. We shall see Saturday night. But one thing for sure, it's always MBF when it comes to Canelo. No black fighters. And now it's becoming NMF, no Mexican fighters, unless it's Chavez Jr. or something crazy like that. But one thing for sure, you know, Canelo is on a European tour. I mean, he's looking to assassinate all the Europeans. That's why we call him the European assassin. He is Europe pound for pound number one. That's for sure. You know, but like I said, at the end of the day, come Saturday night, we shall see if the European assassin will get assassinated by Bivol. That's going to be a hard call because we know what time it is. I mean, to assassinate the European assassin himself, that's a tough task for a European, you know. But anyways, brother, appreciate you. Let me go ahead and pick up this last call, you know, before I end the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. How you doing, Aki? Who this is and where you calling from?
Yo, Aki, peace, blessings. KG calling from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, baby.
What's going on, brother? How you doing? Who you got this Saturday night? Bivol, Canelo,
Hey, man.
And why?
Unfortunately, I want to say be bold, but it goes to a decision. I feel as though Canelo's going to get the home cooking. I mean, you know, it's just what it is. If be bold, don't get him out of there, and they go to a decision. We seen what happened with Laura when they fought at 154. Seen the Austin Trout fight, the questionable wins. Canelo got his in his past. If it goes to a decision, Canelo's going to get the call. We both know that's the MBF, man. I mean, like you said before in numerous videos, Eddie Reynoso blocking for him while he's running from the Charlos and the Andres and everything, man. You know, it's just what it is out here, man. It's unfortunate. In my opinion, Canelo's not pound for pound, but he got accolades, so everybody wants to give him that. Old media wants to give him that, but, you know, shout out to you and the new media who call it how it is and tell the truth.
Appreciate you, brother. You know, one thing we do know when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, I mean, you know, he turned down his, you know, biggest paydays to fight the fighters on the coincidental list. You know, he choosing and picking these weakest opposition. They say, oh, at the end of the day, it's business. You know, old media, that is. They say when it comes to Canelo fighting these guys. What they mean by that, yeah, it's business. They mean, yeah, it's business. Fighting the fighters on the coincidental list is bad business. Because even though it's the biggest payday, even though it's the biggest money fight, even though it's the biggest legacy fight, however, it's bad business because Canelo, you could lose. That's why it's bad business. See, they be telling on themselves without even realizing it. But yeah, fighting the unknown Bivol is good business because he a fighter on the hope list, and Canelo, you got a better chance of beating him. That's what they indirectly saying when they mention these things. I mean, it's so crazy because the truth will come out eventually, some way, somehow. Canelo own trainer Eddie Reynoso said that, quote, the most complicated fighters to fight is, he said, African Americans are the most complicated fighters. They have the most
and I've seen that, and I've seen it.
Yeah, they. What was? Let me quote it right, because I don't want to misquote it. I don't want to misquote it.
No, listen.
African American fighters are the most difficult. They the most complicated to beat. And that's why Canelo avoids every single one of them, from Charlo to Andre, so on and so forth. That's what we saw on display when Valdez fought Shakur. And that's what we saw on display when Canelo fought Floyd.
Hey, Aki, now let me ask you this, and this is on another note, but it goes back to the young dream Devin Haney, because I caught an interview that Max Kellerman on Max on Boxing Day with Devin Haney.
Right.
And Haney had to check him because Max Kellerman actually said that Cambosos, well, I call him Duck Bosos, Scambosos, but you know, Cambosos is the lightweight champion, and Haney had to come in and check him and said, how is he the lightweight champion when I got the WBC belt and he got the franchise, which at one point, you know, Canelo started it, which is the NBF belt, because, you know, he vacated to Lomachenko, Duck, Devin Haney, and then Devin Haney fought to get the belt. So how did that Max Kellerman and old media continue to consider and put this man on a pedestal? But we all know there's only 6 undisputed champs in history. So why does everybody keep the old media Max Kellerman, I thought he was decent, but he put Kambosos out there as a lightweight champion. What's up with that?
Well, first of all, yeah, I seen Devin Haney check him with the right hook or left hook. I don't know which one it was. You know, he caught him with that check hook real quick, and that's when Max Kellerman had to deflect and talk about something else because he didn't see that one coming. You know, it was KO. You know, so I seen that right now. What's interesting, he had the WBC belt right in front of him. He knew what time it is. Like Devin Haney told him, I got 5 different title defenses.
Disrespect.
I'm on my 5th title defense, and he's the longest reigning lightweight champion today. And Max Kellerman has the audacity to sit right in front of Devin Haney and tell him, pretty much, you're not a champion. I don't see you as a champion. Kambosos is. You're not a champion to me. That's what he was telling him.
And that's the disrespect, Aki. That's the disrespect that I love that, you know, all the new media. Shout out to you, because what you do, Dante's Boxing Nation, you know what I mean? What y'all do, the whole truth. Y'all tell her how it is on both ways, man. Like when Charlo ducked Andre, you call Charlo a duck, because, yo, you're ducking this man. This man is calling you. He wants all the smoke, and you don't want none. You know what I mean? Y'all call it how it is. So for new media to do that and disrespect this young phenom coming up, not ducking nobody, like Devin Haney said. Everybody says everything, but let's fight. Haney's not ducking nobody. He's running to the fight, not away from it. And new media, Max Kellerman, you disrespect this man blatantly on national TV. Like, that's crazy to me, man.
And let me
crazy,
say this,
bro.
brother. Let me say this to you. You know, it's so the double standards when it comes to these fighters on the coincidental list is outrageous. I mean, the audacity by old media. You see a guy like Max Kellerman. He criticized Gervonta on more than one occasion for not fighting Lomachenko, where he said that Gervonta is avoiding Lomachenko, right? Then, with that same breath, he co-signs the decafs and old media narrative of Devin Haney is not a champion. He's an email champion, this, that, and the third. So let me get this right. Y'all criticize Gervonta for not doing the right thing and fighting Lomachenko. But when a young fighter, the youngest champion of all at the lightweight division, Devin Haney, when Devin Haney was Lomachenko mandatory at 20 years old, Lomachenko had to fight him within 6-month time span because he just fought for a vacant belt, and he was obligated to fight his mandatory within 6 months, which was Devin Haney. All of a sudden, Lomachenko throws the belt to the trash. He got stripped, like Devin Haney said. And now they don't want to give Devin Haney his credit and call Lomachenko a duck. So they want to call Gervonta a duck when he doesn't want to do the right thing. But when Lomachenko doesn't do the right thing and ducks Devin Haney, they want to say, oh, he's a super champion. No. He a super duck. That's what he is. So, like I said before,
hey, man,
you know,
you said it before, man.
You see the double standards. You see how they hold these fighters on the coincidental list on a different pedestal to the fighters on the hope list. When Gervonta does something, oh, he's a duck. When Lomachenko does something worse, oh, no, he's a champion. He ain't no duck. Oh, Devin Haney is an email champion. You can't have it both ways. That's all I'm saying.
And then they want to put Lomachenko right back in the mix. Like, who did he fight to be even in the mix is what I don't understand. They want to erase back in, years ago when Crawford was fighting, I forget who it was. I might have been Victor Posto or Jose Benavidez, and he was on ESPN, and they keep trying to erase. Oh, Deshaun Porter, when they keep trying to erase Lomachenko's 2 losses. He's not undefeated. They want to keep putting Lomachenko out there like he's the golden child or whatever. He got the complexion for the ultimate protection. We all know that. You said it numerous times. But why is it that Lomachenko's continually being put in the mix and he don't deserve it? He ain't fought top 3 contenders, top 2 contenders in the IBF, WBO, WBA, or the WBC. So why is everybody putting him in the mix to get titles? I don't understand it, bro. I don't.
You got that connection. You got the complexion for the connection. I mean, you see what happened is they try to stop another Floyd Mayweather from emerging. They try to stop Shakur, Devin Haney from emerging to becoming the next Floyd Mayweather. So what they try to do, they try to block them from getting the Oscar Valdez fight. They try to block Devin Haney from getting the Lomachenko fight. They try to say he's not a champion, but it backfired. Why? Because Devin Haney now fighting for undisputed, the real undisputed, the first lightweight undisputed bout since Pernell Whitaker. This haven't been done for 30 years. Over 30 years, Devin Haney is about to accomplish something that haven't been done for 30 years, and his name will be printed next to Pernell Whitaker. Now it backfired on old media. They didn't think Devin Haney was gonna get the Kambosos fight. See, what happened is this is God's plan. You can't stop God's plan. Old media tried to block Devin Haney through the MBF, just like they blocked Andrade and Charlo all this time. However, Devin Haney broke through because he did everything right. He was calling out everybody. He was the boogeyman, just like Crawford was at some point, just like Errol Spence was at some point, just like Pretty Boy Floyd was at some point. And here is his opportunity. Now Max Kellerman, he has to rub it on his face. Undisputed. He has to call Devin Haney the realest champion of them all. More real than Lomachenko, more real than Teofimo, more real than Kambosos. The real undisputed. It ain't none of that disputed champion. Devin Haney is the undisputed champion if he beats Kambosos come June 4th. And that's why old media agenda, their plan backfired on them. You know?
Hey, Aki, let me ask you this real quick. One thing before I let you go. Why is it that every time the big names out there like Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, Devin Haney, Tank, whenever they are facing all this adversity on the front end, they downplay them, they talk bad about them and everything else, like, oh, well, he has no chance. Prime example, a la Errol Spence a couple weeks back. Nobody thought Errol Spence was going to beat Eugenio Ugas. Ugas was coming off his biggest win against Pacquiao. Everybody counted Errol Spence out. But then when Errol Spence comes out and breaks this man's face, breaks his nose, broken down and everything, and everybody, oh, well, Ugas wasn't that good. Why does everybody want to discredit the wins when we get the wins? But then on the front end, they're always like, oh, he has no chance, he has no chance. Guarantee you, they're going to badmouth Devin Haney when Devin Haney makes Kambosos look stupid. They're going to badmouth, oh, well, Kambosos really wasn't that good. He really shouldn't have been in that fight. Why is it always like a double standard when it comes to that when we win, when we're not supposed to? Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, because the fighters on the coincidental list are held to a high standard. They always got to do 3-4 times more to get half of the credit. You know, when Lomachenko, like I said, Bob just came out and said undisputed is stupid. He didn't say that when Lomachenko was fighting nobody's trying to get to the title, to undisputed. He fought Pedraza, somebody Tank already knocked out. He fought Campbell, somebody Linares already beat. He fought, Linares. So it's like, oh, but now it wasn't stupid then, but it's stupid now. You know, so at the end of the day,
right.
You know, you see what they do. Undisputed wasn't a big deal when Crawford became undisputed. But when Canelo became undisputed, then it was a big deal. Then Canelo's pound for pound number one because he became undisputed. But when Crawford became undisputed, it's something that haven't been done for 13 years, they didn't even consider that as great. But when Canelo ducked undisputed against Andrade, they acted like they don't know nothing, they don't see nothing. They blind to see the truth. But then when Canelo went for undisputed, when Benavidez got stripped of the WBC title for not making weight, all of a sudden now Canelo heading for undisputed after Benavidez is out of the picture, which was the most dangerous 168-pounder. Now he becomes undisputed in the weakest division, and it's such a great accomplishment. Where was that energy at, though? But like you said, watch, as soon as Devin Haney becomes undisputed, they're not going to make a big deal out of it. They're gonna find a way to discredit Devin Haney, just like they discrediting Shakur now. They saying Valdez was too big. I mean, excuse me, Valdez. I heard that Valdez said Shakur was too big, but it's so crazy. Old media was painting the narrative leading up to the fight that Shakur was too big, when Valdez, a fight ago, took steroids in order to make weight. He admitted that he's struggling to make 130 pounds because, you know, he might move up in weight because he's struggling to make 130 pounds, where he literally got caught taking Phentermine trying to make weight. He a weight bully, if anything. So how is a guy like Shakur Stevenson that just moved up from 126 to 130 pounds, all of a sudden now it's too big for a guy that can't even make weight in Oscar Valdez? They always find that
Hey,
nigga.
Aki, he can't, but he can't even say, Shakur was too big because let's go to his last two opponents. Robertson Conceicao and Miguel Berchelt are both bigger than Shakur Stevenson. There was never no, oh, they're too big when you're beating this dude.
Yeah.
When you got the home cooking against Robertson Conceicao, when you tested positive for PED, you beat him. He was the bigger fighter, and you didn't say he was too big. When Miguel Berchelt had that come forward Mexican style that allowed you to counterpunch and knock him out cold, he's bigger than Shakur. He's 5'10". To be exact, Miguel Berchelt is the same size as Mario Barrios, who fought Tank at 140, then fought Keith Thurman at 147. Same exact build as Mario Barrios. But he's not too big because you beat him. But now all of a sudden, Shakur beats you, and he's smaller than both of those two guys. But now your excuse is, oh, he's too big. What? I mean, come on, man. I mean, excuses, man. Let's stop making them, bro. Let's just keep it real.
Skills pay the bills. Canelo was too big for Floyd Mayweather, and what did Floyd do? He beat down a 15 pounds bigger than him opponent in Canelo, who was entering his prime with 43 fights at 23 years old. Meanwhile, Floyd was 36, a grandpa, 15 pounds smaller than Canelo, and still beat his ass. Excuse my language.
It took him to school. Yeah. It took him to school, baby.
Skills pay the bills.
But Shakur, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. I keep doing what you're doing. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to all the new media, man. You know, y'all keep doing y'all thing. Keep telling the truth, man. And I'm going to keep tuning in and keep thumbsing up and smashing up the lights, man. Thank you, man.
Appreciate the love and support, brother. Thank you. And to everybody tuning in, go ahead, click that like button, subscribe below, and that notification bell. Don't forget about that. Thank you, guys, and peace. I'm on to the
Africans, Americans, Dominicans, Mexicans, anybody can get it.